anyway, you've had quite a fabled TV and radio career. I remember listening to you. Me and my mum were obsessed with Fifi and Jules on the radio, and my dad never liked it. He was always a Triple M guy. You know, he'd love Eddie Maguire, but he never liked the show. And then eventually we turned. My sister and my brother really got onto the show, and I was sad that it only went for the few years that it did. I know you obviously had Getaway for a period there. You were like the guy on Channel 9, presented the Logies. You did fucking... If you go through your actual filmography on Wikipedia, there's so many random shows that Channel 9 were trying to obviously just test, and you'd be the go-to.
I was cannon fodder.
Pretty much.
Point I was the only real host there, you know, because Ed became the boss, and then Jamie Jury defected to 7, and then it felt like there was a period where it was just like, hey, we've got to do 3 shows this year. Jules, you're doing them. And I'd be going, they're horrible shows. And they'd say, no, you've got to do them. And I'm like, you know, I'm going to go down with each one of those ships. And sure enough, I did.
How does that work then from when they approach you on that, do they say, hey, we're going to pay you extra for doing this, but you also have to do it? Or is it just like you're contracted to be a presenter with them and they're like, well, we need you to pick up some more hours on this and fill some space?
Look, it's a good question. So basically they pay you a heap, right, for a network contract over the year. And so I always had Getaway, and that was unusually stable, right? There's no sort of, nothing really exists like that these days where, you know, it was just always there. And so I was, you know, able to spend quite a bit of time with that. So I would have that as my sort of staple, but then I was able to step off and trial all these other things. The other things they'd still have to pitch to me. So they didn't pay me extra because, you know, I wanted to work nonstop. Like I absolutely loved it. But I didn't like the concept. So, you know, I still cared about, I still had a content brain. I was like, that's shit. And so, you know, they would pitch me like, what was it, Dancing on Ice, you know, learning how to ice dance with Torval and Dean.
Yeah.
Reality show. And they said, do you want to do this? I said, no. And they said, have a look at the video. I said, yeah, it's sparkly and spandex. And I said, I'll host it. And they said, we've got jury. And I said, well, no. And then after a while, the pressure just comes. And so I caved to that, and it ended up being a good thing anyway. But then off the back of that, you know, because I'd taken the piss out of it, it struck a chord, and then I was hot property. And then from there, unfortunately, they had a whole heap of shit shows. And I said no to plenty, but also the ones that like Hole in the Wall was where
There's a clip to that.
You'd stand there on the edge of a pool, and they'd have a polystyrene cutout, and if you didn't make the shape, the wall would push in the pool, and it was fucking stupid. It was a Japanese clip on YouTube that should have stayed as a clip, not a 8-part series.
Yeah, that is a classic case of like a network goes to that annual conference in France. I can't remember where it is, where they trade. What is it?
Nipcom.
That's it. And they trade the shows, or they buy the rights to shows in the territory. Because I got 2 mates who just sold a show called Regular Old Bogan to Channel 7. And they were going to go through that process this year, but obviously COVID happened. And they were just telling me about it. And I'm just like, okay, right. So they really, when it comes to content, there's not much original stuff on networks these days. And that to me stood out as a TV show. I feel like Labby actually might have hosted that for a period as well.
Which one?
Hole in the Wall.
No.
He was just on an episode.
He was on an episode. We looked similar back then, so I can understand. Well, how many seasons do you reckon friggin' ran? Mate, it didn't even, it was 8 eps and it struggled towards. So what happened was I said no to that, and they kept coming at, and I can't even begin to tell you how the heat that I got on that over months. In the end, I went, if I say no to this and it goes well, I'm cooked at this network, right? Because I didn't get on the bus, so it went well. And if it goes bad, I'll be blamed because I wasn't helping and being a team player.
Yeah.
And so I went, I have to do this. Annoyingly, as they knew, the first episode had so much interest that it rated through the roof. And then sure enough, bang, the next day, hey, we've got another show for you, and it was even worse, called Australia's Perfect Couple.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the list now.
And so
there's some shockers that
was up in Byron. So that was like a reality dating show. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And they're like, you said that about Hole in the Wall, and last night it rated and you were wrong. Well, I said yes to this crap one. The next week, Hole in the Wall plummets. And they knew that, and plummets and plummets and plummets. And so at the end of that, I had already said yes to another crap one. So by now I'm cashing checks that, my credibility can't deliver on. So by the end of all of these, people are like, oh, you're the host of all that crap. And so I went, all right, I better go to radio now.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the list here. What do you reckon was more fun to do? Funniest home videos or 20 to 1?
Well, I didn't really host 20 to 1. That was Bert Newton, but I think I appeared on it a bit. I don't think I might have hosted some, and I only Funniest Home Videos I didn't host long. I was just doing like finales with Tony Piran and because she was a superstar, and those were just side things. But I sort of did every known genre, and to be honest, I like trying new genres. Like I did panel quiz shows, the reality show, a game show, travel reporting, red carpet, showbiz, entertainment reporting on Today Show. So I was happy to, I was a VJ on So Fresh. I was happy to collect the set. And that's why I think, because right then I wanted to be a well-rounded presenter and have done all that experience. And I still love that. Doing all those different angles. I just wish most of them didn't go to air.
Yeah. Look, you probably could argue that unless you had those moments, you would not have learnt the craft in the way that you did over the years. You got to have. Yeah, but the problem is have those shitty shows.
Yeah, but then the point is that it's meant to then get to you to the moment where you Then I think The Voice came, and I'd already moved on because there was actually no good TV shows. And there's not really now. So as a TV presenter back then, you could have a career as a TV presenter, whereas there's no Tommy Jackett, me and him, we were investing in him to become a TV presenter. For what? Even on Foxtel, there's TV presenting isn't a craft.
Yeah.
Anymore, really.
Yeah,
there's a couple of people, but that's why they keep using the same people, and they're not producing more TV presenters. I don't know, 7, 9, and 10. I might be wrong, but is anyone who because Sonia Kruger's doing stuff, and Darren McMullen did The Voice. I don't know, who and Scotty Cam's doing good stuff, but I think they're all just the same people from 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, that is network TV now, isn't it? It's reality TV, sport, news, rehashing formats that they know works, and then syndicated stuff from who knows, CBS, Viacom, or whatever other agreements they have in place. I can't think of anything original, and I really can't.
Or stable, because the problem is you spend all of your you promote the new thing, come out Grant Denyer does great, but the problem is if they're not stable, you end up doing 6 in 4 years as a TV presenter, and then you can't help but wear, like me, all of the weak ones as part of your brand. And that's why you look at something like what David Barber and Justin and Jules Kress with The Block. You look at these stable shows, these are juggernauts, and they are the most powerful things in Australian television in decades, and it is a proper brand that is great. It evolves, it's innovative, and it is television in this country.
Yeah. I was thinking about it the other day, what's the original stuff that we see nowadays? The only, I can't think of a good Aussie original that was produced in the last few years.
Well, the project was 7 p.m. project. When that first launched, David Mott from Channel 10 showed incredible commitment and discipline, because you've got to imagine when you launch something new in this country and it doesn't fit into a pigeonhole, and that was news plus comedy, and it was absolutely uncomfortable. It was unnerving for the people presenting, because they would go, here's, 3,000 people have been killed in Tehran, and then it would go to Husey to make a gag about something else. And it was pretty difficult, and the audience didn't know where to put it. And it took years for people to just get comfortable with the temperature. And I love that, because it's still there, and those programs are important. But then before that was, things like Thank God You're Here and all of the DGen guys and Working Dog guys. That stuff was powerful, brave, and they had the credibility. And same as Rove, and there was some great innovations, which Rove was turning into the 7 p.m. project. So I think that stuff, it's really hard to do new stuff and get it to stick. And, Hamish and Andy have done some great stuff, and, they've even had success overseas with, I always forget if it's Real Stories or True Stories.
Oh, yeah.
Early on, they had another concept, Real Stories or True Stories. But, the Caravan of Courage and that was actually, that travelling stuff was actually brilliant. That was how Getaway should have been. In many ways, it should have been more around entertainment with the location as a backdrop. But I think these days, unfortunately, no one has the commitment that Dave Mott, which is, this is different, let's stick with it. Because even MAFS, Married at First Sight, and look, this is, as someone who doesn't even watch any of this stuff, this is, MAFS was very different early days, because the producer for that was an old Getaway producer, and that was plodding along as something more like an obdoc. And it was really not tacky, cheesy, disgustingly cheap. And it was only Adrian Swift, who was also ex-Getaway and a superstar, who sort of just said, nah, there's an appetite for this, but I think we need to make it a bit more, I don't know.
Franken, what do they call it? Franken editing or Franken.
What's that?
It's where you take multiple words from different sentences and stitch together a sentence.
Frankenstein.
Franken clipping. God, I really, Friendly Geordies, who's a prominent YouTuber these days in Australia, talks about it when he does his reviews of maths and whatnot. But yeah, it's basically like where they put in something like, he said that I was a bitch. And it's like they never said it collectively as a sentence, but they just made the sentence for drama.
I edit stuff like that in my Marketers in Pajamas, my video content series. Not as much as that. I just cut it. But it's a lot easier than you think.
It's very easy.
You can create reality. You've got the same audio channel that's clean. You've got these people being recorded hundreds of hours. You've got every word.
Yeah.
If you wanted to write the words, and then I suppose, I don't know now if it's all transcript and where you could search for words, you could type in, Jordan, and then type in the sentence, and it could probably find you 10 variations of cow, or probably not cow. That's out of the box one. But, and you could piece it together, and all you're doing is you show the back of their head or you show the reaction of someone else. It's really easy. So have they, as part of the sign-off, have they got freedom to do that?
I don't know, because there was this whole story of this bloke suing Channel 10 post-season, or like in the middle of the season launch. So I don't know. I really don't. But I guess you could argue from a network perspective, someone suing them is actually great PR, because they're going to have a bigger legal budget and they're just going to get more eyeballs. So it'll sort of pay for itself, maybe. I don't know.